Imagine staring at a bank statement.
Yeah, just a normal piece of paper. Right.
Right, but imagine it read 15 lakh rupees yesterday. And today, you look at it and it reads a mere 300 rupees.
Oh, wow. That stomach drop.
Exactly. Your entire life savings just gone. So today we are doing a deep dive into a really devastating real-life scam.
A very methodical one.
We're pulling from a case study and a legal breakdown titled 316. And our mission for this deep dive is to track this thing from the very initial psychological hook all the way to the resounding gavel strike in a Mumbai courtroom.
Right. We're deconstructing how a trap like this is built and how a newly updated Indian law was, specifically designed to catch the architects behind it.
Okay, let's unpack this, because a truly sophisticated scam, it doesn't look like a mugging in an alleyway.
No, not at all.
It looks like a masterclass in stage magic. The victim is so entirely focused on the shiny prestige, like the incredible promise being dangled right in front of them, that they never even see the trapdoor opening beneath their feet.
They're looking exactly where the magician wants them to look.
Exactly. But to understand the legal mechanism that eventually catches this magician, we first have to, we have to understand the illusion.
Yeah, we have to see the aftermath.
Right. We need to transport ourselves to this rainy apartment in Dadar, where the devastating reality of this magic trick is fully realized.
And that apartment in Dadar, that's the crucial emotional baseline for everything that follows. I mean, the scene detailed in the case study is incredibly stark.
Set the scene for us.
So we have a man named Ramesh. He's a middle-class bank clerk sitting alone at his dining table. The rain is lashing against a cracked window, and he's staring blankly at his passbook under this single overhead bulb.
And it shows that 300 rupee balance.
Exactly. But just days prior, that exact same account held his life savings, 15 lakh rupees.
And we really need to emphasize for you listening what 15 lakh rupees represented for a bank clerk like Ramesh. I mean, this wasn't a sudden inheritance.
Yeah.
Or like a lucky investment payout.
Far from it. This was painstakingly accumulated over 20 years.
2 decades.
2 decades of working double shifts, of actively sacrificing his own comfort, all for one singular driving purpose. He wanted to secure his daughter's admission into a medical college.
Yeah.
It was the anchor of his entire life's ambition. And in an instant, it just vanished. It was stolen by a predator he met just 2 months earlier at this crowded educational fair in Bandra.
Right, and this guy introduces himself as Dr. Vikram Singhania.
Yeah, claiming to be the managing director of an elite educational consultancy.
The case study focuses heavily on the visual presentation of this guy, and it feels so integral to the trap. Like, Vikram is wearing a sharp, tailored three-piece suit.
Yeah.
He speaks completely flawless English.
Oh, absolutely.
He projects this overwhelming aura of immense wealth and, untouchable influence. So I have to ask, is this projection of extreme wealth, the expensive suit, the plush, glass-walled office in Andheri, is that essentially the modern predator's camouflage?
I'd say so, yes.
Are they deliberately using our own societal biases about what success looks like against us?
What's fascinating here is how deeply that camouflage preys on our cognitive shortcuts. We're socially conditioned from a young age to equate visible wealth with legitimacy, right?
Right. If you look rich, you must be good at your job.
Exactly. Competence and, most dangerously, trustworthiness. And Vikram knew exactly how to weaponize that conditioning.
He used it like a tool.
He really did. He spotted Ramesh at that educational fair, and more importantly, he identified the raw desperation in a father's eyes. Vikram used that suit and that flawless English to completely bypass Ramesh's critical thinking.
So what was the actual pitch?
He smoothly pitched a guaranteed management quota seat at a highly prestigious medical college in Pune. The hook was simple, really. A mandatory donation of 15 lakhs required immediately to secure the spot before a fictitious, rapidly approaching deadline.
Creating that false sense of urgency. But a shiny suit and a nice office, I mean, that shouldn't be enough to make a rational, hardworking guy just hand over 20 years of savings on the spot.
Right, it doesn't happen overnight.
You can't just snap your fingers and induce that kind of financial suicide. There had to be a meticulously orchestrated timeline to build that level of absolute, unquestioning trust.
The pacing is where the psychological manipulation reaches this terrifying level of precision. The initial contact in early June at that Bandra fair, that was merely planting the seed.
Just getting his foot in the door.
Exactly. Moving into mid-June, Vikram initiates the dedicated trust-building phase. He invites Ramesh to this beautiful, bustling office in Andheri. He serves him artisanal coffee.
It's all about the details.
It is. He casually leaves counterfeit, yet perfectly designed university letterheads just sitting on the desk. He even goes so far as to play fabricated audio recordings on his phone.
Wait, fake audio recording?
Yeah, recordings of conversations he supposedly had with the college deans just that morning.
Wow. So he's not just telling a lie, he's building a totally alternate multi-sensory reality for Ramesh to physically step into.
That immersive reality is exactly what seals the trap. By the first week of July, Ramesh is completely and utterly convinced. The illusion is flawless to him.
So he makes the jump.
He makes the catastrophic decision to liquidate his Provident Fund. He transfers 10 lakhs through an online banking portal, and then he physically hands over 5 lakhs in hard cash.
Oh, man.
In return, Vikram hands him a beautifully forged admission confirmation letter, complete with a heavy, embossed seal.
I have to push back here, though, because as someone reading this case, the mechanics of that final transaction are so hard to comprehend.
How so?
Handing over 5 lakhs in actual physical cash. Liquidating a Provident Fund, which is a legally protected retirement safety net, for an unofficial donation.
Yeah, it sounds crazy from the outside.
Right. Why do financially literate people, and remember, Ramesh works at a bank, why do they completely ignore these glaring, massive red flags?
The psychology behind that blind spot is actually heavily documented. When the human brain is flooded with a desperate hope, especially parental hope tied to a child's future, that intense emotion fundamentally overrides the prefrontal cortex.
Which is the logical part of the brain.
Exactly, the part responsible for logic and risk assessment. We are looking at a textbook case of cognitive dissonance paired with the sunk cost fallacy.
He was already too deep.
Ramesh wanted the outcome so badly that his brain actively suppressed the inconsistencies. Acknowledging the red flags would mean admitting his daughter's dream was a lie.
And that's just too painful.
That emotional pain is too severe for the brain to process in the moment, so he willingly helps the scammer maintain the illusion.
But the illusion always breaks eventually, and the vanishing act in this case is brutal.
It took barely 3 days. After the payment, Ramesh tries to call Vikram to verify some joining dates. The phone is dead, permanently switched off.
Just absolute silence.
Panic sets in immediately. By the second week of July, Ramesh rushes back to that beautiful Andheri office, and he finds the real landlord pasting a "To Let" sign on the glass door.
Oh, God.
Vikram had rented the space for barely a month using completely fabricated identity proofs. He was a ghost.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because you might think, okay, the scammer was highly organized, he disappeared, case closed. But the investigation shows that while the predator had his stage magic, the authorities had a totally different set of tools.
Yeah, they really stepped up. Ramesh, utterly broken, stumbles into the local police station and files a first information report.
An FIR.
Right. And the investigating officer, Sub-Inspector Kadam, listens to the story and immediately recognizes the hallmarks of a highly organized syndicate. Kadam swings into action. The police rush to freeze the beneficiary bank accounts.
But with these syndicates, the money doesn't just sit in a checking account waiting to be frozen.
Not at all. Vikram was incredibly fast. He had already siphoned off the bulk of the funds using a technique called chain hopping.
Wait, chain hopping?
Yeah.
Can you break down how that actually works for us?
Sure. Essentially, the stolen rupees are rapidly converted into a mainstream cryptocurrency like Bitcoin.
Okay.
But they don't stop there. They are then swapped across various decentralized exchanges into privacy-focused coins like Monero.
So they hide it.
Exactly. It obscures the wallet addresses and transaction histories.
Yeah.
It effectively shreds the digital receipt at every single step. By the time the cyber cell was brought in, they were looking at IP addresses bouncing endlessly across international servers, hidden behind layers of encryption.
The digital trail was going cold quickly.
Very quickly.
It's like trying to break into an elaborate digital fortress.
Yeah.
But the incredible twist in this case is that this massive digital fortress wasn't brought down by a hacker finding a line of bad code. It was brought down by an unclosed backdoor in the physical world.
That physical oversight is a crux of the entire investigation. While the cyber team was hitting dead ends, the local police were canvassing the area around that empty Andheri office.
Just doing old school police work.
Exactly. And they spotted a dusty, seemingly insignificant CCTV camera mounted outside a nearby tea stall. When they pulled the footage, they caught their lucky break.
What did they find?
The camera captured the license plate of the luxury car Vikram had been driving to project all that wealth.
Wow. The ultimate camouflage. The luxury car actually becomes the thread that unravels him.
It really does. A quick transport department check revealed the luxury car was a rental. The police tracked down the rental agency, pulled the booking records, and the mask finally came off.
Vikram didn't exist.
Dr. Vikram Singhania did not exist. His real identity was Samir, a habitual career offender. The rental records pointed them straight to his current hideout, which was a picturesque rented seaside villa in Goa.
He crossed state lines, probably thinking that put him entirely out of the Mumbai police's jurisdiction, or, at least off their immediate radar.
Oh, he certainly thought he was untouchable, until a swift, coordinated midnight raid by the Mumbai police brought his little vacation to a violent halt.
I can just imagine them kicking the door down.
They stormed the Goa villa and made a dramatic arrest. Inside, they seized a treasure trove of physical evidence. We're talking multiple fake passports, a collection of forged university stamps, and stacks of extorted cash from various victims.
But catching Samir in goal, physically putting the handcuffs on him, is just the physical capture. Now, the state has to actually prove his crime in a packed Mumbai Sessions Court.
Which is a whole different battle.
Right, because doing that requires mapping Samir's actions to a very specific legal framework.
And the courtroom trial was a masterclass in legal maneuvering. Samir's defense lawyer came out swinging with a very calculated narrative. They aggressively argued that this was not a criminal act at all, but merely a business transaction gone wrong.
A breach of contract.
A simple breach of contract. Their story was that Samir's consultancy genuinely tried to secure the medical seat for Ramesh's daughter, but failed due to sudden changing university policies.
So they tried to paint him as the good guy.
They actually tried to paint Samir as an ambitious entrepreneur victimized by bureaucratic red tape.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second here, because I think this is a crucial distinction.
Go for it.
If Samir had actually tried to get Ramesh's daughter the seat, if he made a real effort, contacted the school, and just failed because of a policy change, would he be completely innocent of a crime? Does the law punish business failure, or does it only punish deception?
This raises an important question, right? And it is the exact question the public prosecutor used to dismantle the defense.
Okay.
The law absolutely does not punish a genuine business failure or a breach of contract caused by external factors. To put someone in prison for fraud, the prosecutor had to anchor the case on a foundational legal principle called mens rea.
Mens rea, a guilty mind.
Exactly.
But proving what's inside someone's mind seems nearly impossible. It's like trying to prove someone deliberately started a forest fire when all you have in front of you is a pile of ashes.
Yeah.
You can't just look at the fire. You have to look to see if they bought a can of gasoline 3 days before the first spark.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. The prosecutor had to prove that the gasoline was purchased before the fire. They had to prove Samir never intended to deliver on his promise.
How do you do that in court?
They started by presenting the fake university stamps recovered from the Goa hideout. Then they called the actual landlord of the Andheri office to the witness stand, who testified under oath that Samir had rented the space under a completely fake alias.
Right.
The prosecutor asked the judge, why use a fake name and forge stamps if you were running a legitimate consultancy?
You don't. It shows the deception was premeditated. But there was one piece of digital evidence that completely sealed his fate, right? The smoking gun that proved the intent.
Yeah, the climax of the trial came when the prosecution called a cyber expert to the stand. This expert testified about that sleek, professional admission portal Samir had shown Ramesh on his laptop during those trust-building meetings.
The one that looks so official.
Right. The expert analyzed the metadata and proved to the judge that this portal was hosted on a temporary web domain. And more importantly, that domain was registered and created just days before Samir ever met Ramesh at the Bandra Fair.
Wow. So the structural engineering for the lie, the infrastructure of the trap, was built before the victim was even identified.
It systematically destroyed the defense's narrative. It proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the mens rea, the malicious intent to steal, was deeply rooted from the very first handshake.
So there was no changing university policy.
There was only a carefully designed trap. The judge saw right through the illusion. Samir was found guilty and sentenced to 7 years of rigorous imprisonment, along with a massive financial penalty meant to compensate the victims.
The judge couldn't just throw him in jail because he was a bad guy, though. He was punished under a very specific, newly updated legal shield that exists to protect society from this exact type of psychological warfare.
Right. The powerful law that brought Samir down is Section 316 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, or the BNS.
Which replaced the old law, right?
Yeah. For those familiar with older Indian law, this replaces the famous Section 420 of the Indian Penal Code. Section 316 specifically deals with the crime of cheating and dishonestly inducing someone to deliver property.
But what makes it different now?
The beating heart of this law, the reason it was updated for the modern era, is how it handles that premeditation. The dishonest intention to deceive must exist from the very beginning, and the law now explicitly recognizes digital forgery and electronic deception as proof of that intent.
So what does this all mean? How does this abstract courtroom drama connect directly back to you, the listener, in your everyday life? Because most of us aren't out there trying to buy medical college seats for 15 lakhs.
You might not be dealing with medical admissions, but you are absolutely walking through a minefield of potential Section 316 violations every single time you open your phone.
Really?
Oh yeah. This law is the primary weapon against the daily digitized scams that plague our modern society.
But 316 sounds like it only applies to massive, orchestrated heists like Samir's. How does a law like this apply to the average person who's just scrolling on their phone or checking their email?
It scales down perfectly. Think about those fake crypto investment schemes promoted on social media, the ones promising impossible returns, claiming they will double your money in a month.
We see those everywhere.
You transfer the funds and the platform vanishes overnight. That's Section 316. Or think about the heartbreaking fake job offers. A desperate candidate receives a professional-looking offer letter via email, but is told they must pay a processing fee or a laptop deposit for a job that simply does not exist.
The premeditated intent to deceive is there from the start.
Exactly. It also covers real estate fraud. Someone selling you a plot of land while hiding the fact that they don't hold the actual title to it. Or the most prevalent one today, the OTP phone scammers.
All those are the worst.
Someone calls you posing as a legitimate bank official, creates a false sense of panic about your account being blocked, tricks you into sharing your one-time password, and empties your savings.
It happens all the time.
In every single one of these scenarios, someone is using false pretenses to pressure you into parting with your assets. The mechanism of the trapdoor is identical, and Section 316 is the law being violated.
It is comforting to know that Section 316 exists, and that it has adapted to digital evidence. But honestly, the absolute best defense is making sure you never have to rely on the justice system to get your money back in the first place. When we look back at Ramesh's tragedy in hindsight, the red flags were waving wildly.
They were glaring, and while we shouldn't blame the victim, we have to learn from the mechanics of the deception. Ramesh bypassed the official university admission channels. He ignored the transparent, publicly available merit lists, and he agreed to pay a massive amount of money in untraceable cash. Those are three massive indicators of fraud.
Just a little bit of friction would have saved him. A simple road trip to visit the actual university campus in Pune, or simply demanding verifiable independent references from this consultancy would have completely shattered that glass illusion.
It really would have.
And looking at the other side of this case, I can't help but observe the absolute tragedy of the scammer himself. Samir had immense intelligence. He was charismatic. He had incredible communication and organizational skills.
He was incredibly capable.
He built a functioning, fake corporate infrastructure in a matter of days. He could have easily had a highly successful, completely legitimate career in corporate sales or project management. But he chose a dark path that destroyed innocent families and ultimately cost him a decade of his own freedom. It is a profound waste of human potential.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is exactly why the judicial system comes down so hard on these offenses. White-collar crimes like this do much more than just empty individual bank accounts. They rot the very foundation of societal trust. They viciously prey on the vulnerable, pure aspirations of honest, hardworking citizens. A society simply cannot function if people are constantly terrified that every promise is a trap and every handshake is a theft.
Nobody could live like that.
That's where the legal framework of Section 316 has to be a strict, unforgiving shield.
And that perfectly sets up our final takeaways from this deep dive. If there is one thing you remember from the story of Case 316, let it be this. Deception doesn't always look like a masked robber in a dark alley.
Usually it doesn't.
Often, deception wears an incredibly expensive suit, it serves you artisanal coffee, and it speaks in a soothing, convincing tone that tells you exactly what your heart wants to hear. But as we've seen, Section 316 of the BNS has a long memory, and the digital footprints we leave behind are incredibly difficult to erase entirely.
Nearly impossible.
So the best advice for you as you navigate the modern world, trust your instincts. Verify absolutely everything independently. Introduce friction before making a transaction. And no matter how badly you want a promise to be true, never let desperation cloud your logical judgment.
That's the best defense you have.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that builds on the psychology we've been unraveling today. Scammers like Samir, they aren't just hacking our computers, our crypto wallets, or our bank accounts.
No, they're digging deeper than that.
They are fundamentally hacking our humanity. They target a father's deep sacrificial love for his daughter. They target an unemployed person's fierce ambition to provide for their family. They target our genuine hope for a better future.
It's heartbreaking.
When the very things that make us beautifully, wonderfully human, our empathy, our hope, our inherent desire to trust one another, are the exact vulnerabilities that these syndicates exploit. How do we protect our assets and our families without losing our empathy and our trust in the world in the process? How do we stay vigilant without turning cold? It is an incredibly tough balance to strike, and it is something for you to think about until the next deep dive.